Hey, Lashpreneurs. On today's episode, I was inspired by a post I saw in one of those Lash Facebook groups. And the poster said something along the lines of, do you only post pretty people or models on your social media marketing? That she had her niece go do some, I guess, research on what other accounts were doing. And she saw that the accounts with big followings only posted like models or pretty people. And so I thought that was a really interesting question and a very valid question. And without an understanding of marketing and without an understanding of target client marketing, if you just followed what you thought was successful by what other people do and those that have big followings and big accounts, you might think that that's what you need to replicate, or just, success leaves clues. They're only posting pretty people. Let me do that. So there's a couple of things that we're going to talk about today that are going to really open your eyes to what else you may be seeing on social media specifically, or other marketing that you just want to kind of filter through. Would this or does this work for my business? So first and foremost, the pretty people thing. Let's talk about that. So when you're looking at, let's say, magazines, checking out at the grocery store, and you see a celebrity or a model, like there is nothing that is on, unless you're a tabloid, but nothing on these magazines that isn't edited, filtered to be an idealized version of that person. In fact, you could look up plenty of things online that show the retouched version versus the actual human, right? It gives an idealized view of what that person is supposed to look like. Now, it is playing on the insecurities of women or creating a standard of beauty that is not realistic. So, when it comes to should that be something that you're doing, think about your ideal client. Is your ideal client young, everything pointing up, no wrinkles, just Botox to the moon? Maybe they are Botox, but still, are they the idealized vision of beauty, or are they coming to you because they don't match the idealized vision of beauty? And so they're looking to get services done that helps them feel a little bit better about themselves. Chances are your ideal client falls in the latter. In fact, most of us, our ideal clients, and this is not to disparage those in the 18 to 22-year-old range or 25-year-old range where everything is still perky and pointing up, but most people prefer clientele that's a little bit older, that has more discretionary income and is not super price sensitive as more traditionally younger people are. And so when it comes to the type of imagery to be putting onto your marketing, whether it's your website, whether it's a social media post, you want to think about who is the type of person that would be drawn to this photo. If you have some 20-year-olds who has no blemishes, no wrinkles, everything is perky pointing up. She's wearing like a cute little crop top. Yet your ideal client is somebody who's in their 40s and 50s and like wants to save time in the morning, or is a busy mom. We have a disconnect between what we're putting out there, trying to draw in and attract people, versus the people that we actually want to serve. So that alone would create a disconnect in your marketing, that you actually start to draw in the clients that maybe you don't want to draw in. I'll give you a little story of when I first opened up my own business. I was about a block away from one of the biggest campuses, college campuses in San Diego, called UCSD. I was within walking distance of their school, and I thought, this is going to be great. I'm going to hit up all the sororities. Like, I can go out on campus and talk to people. Like, I was all excited about just how much opportunity I had with a campus right there. And on the second college student in a week that I had to call and wake up for their 11 a.m. appointment, I was done with college students. They were inconsistent, and this is just generalizing, but they were inconsistent. They were very price sensitive. They didn't respect my time. They didn't clean their lashes. They abused and abused them. Like, it was just not my ideal client. And I charged a really hefty price point. And so I found that those were not people that I really wanted to build a stable business on. So all of that is really a target market conversation. You may love the younger clients. That's totally fine. You may love doing like the bigger lashes that, kind of mimic a strip lash and those kinds of things. Great. We want to match our ideal client type, or what we call in our programs the MFC, your most favorite client type, with the imagery we're putting out there. So when it comes to the pretty people, first of all, I don't love that, even just languaging of what's pretty versus what's not pretty, especially we're in the beauty industry. Like, everybody is beautiful, just in different ways. So having a client that you're not posting because they're not pretty by your discretion is a little offensive, right? And can you imagine if you have clients that, fit a certain mold, and you take their before and after photos and you're posting them on social media all the time. And then maybe you get a heavier set woman who isn't as polished or as perky looking as your other clients, and you never take her photo. Is she going to feel beautiful even with the services that you provide, or is she going to feel discriminated against? Is she going to feel judged? Is she going to feel insecure? Right? Most of you work with everyday women that come in all shapes, sizes, colors, races, preferences, skin care. I mean, everything, right? And I think that's really more true to what you should be putting out there. Now, I'm all for doing light editing on photos, and we teach how to do light photo editing in our program, the Lashpreneur Society, so that we are not using anything on the client's face that would become a distraction away from the services. Now, some people get like really super heavily filtered, or they put on complete filters that are false advertising. We don't want to go that path. But if a client has age spots, we might soften those or brighten the photo so that those kind of fade a little bit, so that the attention in the eye is not being drawn to that. Because look, if you put a photo of a client on your social media, first and foremost, you need her permission to do that. We recommend in our policies, in all of our trainings, to have a media release waiver for marketing purposes that they sign as part of their policies. If they don't sign it, we just never take pictures of them. But you need their consent that you will use their photos for marketing purposes, like posting on social media, before you ever do that. And second, we want to make sure that we would never put a client in a situation where she would feel uncomfortable, right? Where she would feel embarrassed, because you may put up a photo, right, of a really close up shot because you see the lashes are just so beautiful and the isolation and the fanning, but all she sees is like how puffy her under eyes look. She's not going to want you to share that. But you're like, look at the lashes. And she's like, that's embarrassing to me. Right. And then we kind of get into this like moral debate. Do I take it down because she doesn't like it, but it's really beautiful work and she signed the release? Chances are we would probably take it down out of respect for the client, because we don't want to piss her off and make her feel uncomfortable on something that was really meant to be a beautiful display of our work. But remember, these are actual humans underneath the lashes, right? And so we have to respect their wishes. So we want to do minimal editing on photos just to make sure that it really is the best photo to display what we're trying to get at, which would be the transformation of before and after. All right. So then the next part of this woman's post in this group was that she had her niece going to go research other lash companies. Well, okay, I'm just going to make a broad generalization. I'm assuming her niece is younger and probably a little bit more on social media than this particular poster. So she thought, cool, a younger generation who's much more maybe hip and happening with social media can go do research on what's working and not working. This is coming from a person or a younger generation who's probably looking at it from a consumer of social media, not a creator of social media. So when she goes and looks at an account that has 20,000 followers, she's probably looking at, oh my God, they're killing it on social media. But from a content creator standpoint, follower count doesn't mean jack squat. Doesn't. And I can tell you that from experience. We have been stuck at 35,000 followers, give or take 1,000 followers here and there, for 3 years. But guess what? My business is 400% more profitable this year than it was last year. And our follower count hasn't changed at all. Why? It's because we've actually shifted to talking more about team building. And we had a lot of people during the pandemic and me shutting down the business that also got out of the industry. So a lot of our followers that we built up to 2019, 2020 actually shifted businesses or just aren't in the industry anymore. So they're not engaging as much, or the accounts are defunct. I went through the other night just to kind of experiment, and I probably went through 4,000 followers and got rid of about 500 of them that either were the wrong followers, were tweezer manufacturers, were dead accounts that those accounts hadn't posted in over a year. And I just removed them just to see if my theory was correct, that our following is not nearly as active as they used to be when we built the majority of that following. All of that to say is those are just vanity numbers. And the reason why we are not really prioritizing, we have a secondary Instagram account, we post on TikTok, we have an email list, we have all these different other marketing channels. And while I could say, screw it, screw the 35,000 followers on this account, they're not engaging, we still have DMs every single day. We still sell every single day in the DMs, or get people on calls, or get them into our programs. So we're still selling, even though our follower count has not grown at all. And trust me, we have tried every organic strategy. We have tried paid strategies to grow it. It's just something with the account. and I can either be upset about it and frustrated about it, or I can work with it. And right now, the way that we're still getting sales off of that account, totally fine with the numbers not growing in that direction. However, from somebody who may not understand how social media marketing works in your business, it is actually more detrimental to your business to have a higher follower count as opposed to having lower numbers, getting more engagement with the right audience who then books. So I don't care what other accounts are doing as far as their follower count. I would actually prefer to see, are they booking appointments? Are they consistently getting leads off social media? Because if you go into those 20,000 plus follower accounts or even 1,000 followers, look at who their followers are. Are they a bunch of other industry professionals? Yet this is a local brick and mortar business that provides lash services. Then their accounts are not getting engagement. And even if they're getting engagement, they're not getting engagement from potential customers because it's the peers, like your other lash artist going like, beautiful work, I love it, so fluffy. Or people who are targeting and following you because you're their ideal client, not because they're ever going to become a customer of yours. Social media marketing and content creation is solely for the purpose of getting somebody to know, like, and trust you to want to buy from you. And any other motivation we have outside of that specific instance is a misuse of social media marketing, honestly, a waste of your time, effort, and energy. So anybody who's going and like, we focus in our programs on consistency first, of posting consistently on social media. But once you've done that, whether it's 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week, whatever you label as consistency, once you've done that and you've just tested a bunch of content, say for a month or two, that consistently, then you can go back to your analytics and see, what does my audience engage with? What posts perform better compared to others? And use that to strategically create more content like that. Follow the patterns. However, that little exercise of finding content that gets good engagement and increases engagement is useless if you have the wrong following. If you have a bunch of lash brands, educators that are following you, and you're trying to get lash clients in, get them out of your feed. We have an episode called the Instagram cleanse. You can go to our website and search for it, listen to it. I think it's episode 76. Don't quote me on that. It's in the 70 range. But that will kind of tell you how the algorithm works and how building these like for like or follow for follow trains and all these peer-based groups is tanking your ability to be able to connect with actual customers who want to book with you. So all of that to say that when this woman posted in there, like, she had her niece going through and looking at basically vanity metrics rather than what is actually working to get clients in the door and pay you money, it is a false sense that follower count is the priority. Same thing when I talk about sales is not the priority for a business owner, profit is. So you can increase sales till your head falls off, but if you're not actually keeping any of that money because everything is being spent that you're making, is that a business you want? Do $100,000 in sales a year? Great. Cost you $150,000 a year to run the business? Not so great. So really, profitability matters more than sales, just like getting money and leads and clients and conversations going on Instagram is more important than follower count. In fact, I would say some of the most successful businesses we worked in, especially in our mastermind where they have teams, don't have more than 1,000 followers. I would say on average, they probably have less. And most of them aren't heavily relying on social media as their only lead source. In fact, that's usually number like 3 or 4 for these bigger businesses. They utilize something like ads, Google reviews, word of mouth, strategic partnerships. Like, there's a lot of different other ways aside from social media that they use, because social media can be time consuming. And when you have a team, you are paying them, at least the way we teach them, whether they're producing sales or not. So we have to have a lot of systems in place to have consistent ongoing leads. And our salons that we work with generate anywhere from like 40 to 90 plus new clients a month. So they have really effective marketing systems in place. All right. And then the last part of that is, should you be posting pretty people? You should be posting people that your ideal type of client would want to be in the photo. And for those of you that are younger, you may have a misillusion of what it's like for us in our 30s, 40s, and 50s. We don't necessarily want to look 20 again. We want to look our best selves, but we don't necessarily want to reverse time to go all the way back to 20. 20s were not the best. I prefer the wisdom. I prefer, kind of a little bit of loss of volume in my face and a little bit of gray hair, not completely. But because I don't want to be 20, I'm proud of the age I am. So thinking that some 40-year-old wants to look 20 again, no, maybe somewhere in the middle. So feel free to post a variety of photos. But again, this is where really understanding how marketing works, and we teach on this in our programs, the marketing funnel. that your first and foremost is you want to figure out who your ideal client is, because you're going to build your business, your marketing, your client experience, the client results based on that type of client. And so when you have good client results and good client experience, that's then what you can market. And that may mean putting out content that doesn't match, the Borbolettas, the Lash Affairs, all of the hip and happening, those that, are trying to appeal to the 20 to 30 or 20-year-olds. You may put out content that is more of the average everyday woman, because that's likely who you're trying to attract in and trying to get them to pay you for the services you offer. So I hope that kind of helped give you a different perspective on how to look at social media marketing from a content creator and a strategy perspective, as opposed to being a consumer wanting to see pretty photos, or what you see in your feed is not what your clients want to see. What you see in your feed is from an educated standpoint of understanding isolation and the styling and all of this stuff. Like, you're looking way more in depth, so you seeing an up close photo of lashes, what you're looking at and what you're looking for to determine if it's good work or not. Clients are not trained to look at the same. They only look at it as, if that were me in the photo, would I be comfortable with that? And those up close, really zoomed in shots or up the nose shots are not flattering to most clients. Therefore, they're not going to want to share that on their profile. They're not going to want to have it be out there in a big way, because it's not flattering to them. So all of that to say, if you guys want to learn more about marketing and how somebody goes from a stranger to a customer, inside of my free Overlooked to Fully Booked masterclass, I teach the marketing funnel and how to look at where social media falls in the overall funnel, and kind of give you a really great in-depth look of how successful businesses are marketing. So totally free class. You can join. We've got classes coming up in the next week or so. Go to lashpreneur.com/masterclass. I'll link it up in the show notes as well. And if you guys have questions, we are building out our content for the next 12 weeks. So I want to make episodes that you want to hear. So DM me a podcast and a topic that you want to talk about, and we'll add it to our list. And maybe I'll create an episode just for you. All right, guys, have a good one.